Hey everybody, Gustavo Furman here, Into the Flow. Thank you for watching on YouTube and listening on Spotify. And please subscribe and like. I appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Today, part two of the great conversation I had with Frank Daly, wellness coach, author, and host of his own podcast, The Perspective Shift. All right. So, enough said. Let's get into it. It's going to be another great one here, another great conversation. Into the flow. All right, everybody. Welcome to Into the Flow. This is Gustavo Furman. I'm here with Frank Daly again, part two. Wow, it's exciting times, exciting times. So good. Um, Thank you for joining us. And everybody, just please subscribe to YouTube, the channel, and like it and like this show here because it's all about inspiring people and being in part of this collective of energy that we all are. And so many people are waking up to this. It's not a new, it's funny how people call it new age or this new thing, but it's not new, right, Frank? What do you think? This way of
Um,
feeling and thinking, is it
yeah,
new or?
no, it's not. It's not new. You could date this way back 5,000 years and even more when they were talking about this stuff. It's kind of like we seem to have lost this understanding of this stuff. 5,000 years ago, there were cultures that appeared to be living. They were living with this information, and somehow there was a disconnect. You go like to ancient Egyptians and the fact that they built these pyramids. We're looking at this from the physical world, and then all of a sudden, here we are. Like, how the hell did they do that?
Right.
I think it was some guy was carrying a tablet and he slipped it and fell into Nile River. It's like, oh shit, we just lost all our information, you know. But yeah, or it's another thing too. It's like it's this continuum life cycle. So we've got the other idea is we went into these other type of cycles, kind of like they have like the golden age, which they say we're heading into another golden age. So it could be just these cycles of relearning what we did and all throughout the you know time, which you say time is we're experiencing here. It's all going to come together like in one big movie. But nonetheless, here we are. People seem to be waking up. The energy on the planet is changing. Ideas are popping in, and the way we've been living, we're starting to realize, hey, wait a minute, it can be an easier way, more efficient way, a better way. Yeah. So that's definitely happening now.
Is happening. And I was listening to some of your talks you have on your Instagram, and you mentioned something. I think it was what you said. You just we go within. But like we go through a lot of problems in life, and a lot of things seem almost very scary. In some ways. And then you were mentioning that you were working with one of your clients, and you said just breathe and go within. And now you asked him later, how do you feel about the problem? He's like, well, I guess it's not that bad. Or, and I think the whole, again, The Secret, like it came, that movie, The Secret, it came
Mm-hmm.
out. To me, now that I understand a lot of the law and a lot of these concepts, it's like it's not a secret, really. It's within, it's all in us. The
Yeah,
power is in us, right?
correct.
Every situation, really. What do you think of that in every situation? Because I know life throws things at us, but how do we handle that, right? That stuff.
Yeah, so like every situation to me is just benign. It doesn't really have any meaning. It's just the meaning we give it. So throughout history, throughout our individual history, something may have happened, and it happens in both directions. So say something happened and it hit your physiology and it sends ripples through, like getting hit, like falling off a bicycle. You can feel the pain, right? Because the body needs that to indicate there's something wrong, right? But when we let go of that, all of a sudden we can get back on the bicycle and not worry about it. But if you hold on to it, you're going to be scared to ride the bicycle. So when we go in and breathe, because we're still looking at the outside world and worry about falling off a bicycle, so to speak, rather than going in and getting rid of that energy. So when people get into like anxiety or what have you in the moment, one of the modalities that work really well is breathing. There is a direct route, but I typically talk to people about the breathing part because once I start to breathe, I lower my heart rate. I go into from sympathetic state to parasympathetic state. And when that happens, your energy rises, so you reach a different level. From here, everything looks different. Here, things are scary because you can't see it. So it's about going in and changing your frequency where up here, the flood isn't a problem. Down here, you're going to drown. So they're having a real experience. I wouldn't deny that. So, but the thing is, why are we hanging out where the water can drown us? We have the ability to change our frequency and go higher and as high as we want. And from there, it's a beautiful view. Here we can drown. So that's why the breathing really works. All right. Then there's points where do you even need to breathe? And like, no, that's a direct route. So that's what we call non-duality. We're witnessing a dualistic world, but the thing that's witnessing isn't that. It's something greater than that. So that's kind of how I go and explain that part. So
Wow.
yeah.
I mean, what do you think, now you talked about duality, what do you think of the parallel reality that people talk about, that there is another for example, this reality we're in right now is something that is already being created, right? It's not, people think very we're, as humans, we're very conditional, like linear. We have a linear kind of mentality of like, this is what's going on right now. And
Hmm.
this is reality, and this is everything.
Yeah.
But
And
there's another side, right?
there, yeah, there is. But the one thing I remind myself and other people is you actually for some reason chose this reality. So if you think about like a Spotify, which is a platform that releases all the music, right? At any given moment, well, actually, right now, every piece of music ever recorded is on Spotify. I can only choose one to have that experience, and it's seemingly what we call a linear experience. So if I want to listen to a piece of music, I have to shut out every other piece of music out in order to listen to that one. So you and I came here with an agreement to have this experience. Yeah, there are parallel universes, there are parallel stories going on, but right now I want to listen to this song and focus on this. So a lot of times when people get this information injected in them, they think the other song is going to be better. It isn't going to be better. It's going to be different, period. So you came here to play in this playground, in this linear perspective, in this physical world. But empirically, it's an illusion. And what I mean is, why it's an illusion doesn't mean it's not real. The experience we're having is absolutely real. The illusion is we really don't know what's going on. It's kind of like if you're driving in the summer in the desert and you look out like 500 yards, it looks like there's water on the road, but there's not. It's an illusion. But yet my eyes see the fluttering of water, but it's a play of light and heat and everything else that's creating that bending of the light, and it makes it look like that way. But I know as I drive, my car's not going to get wet. So we're experiencing what looks like water, but the illusion is because we're focused on, we're relying on our five senses, and say there's like 1,000 senses. We're only telling the story from our five senses, and that's got to be okay. That's okay, but we can't solidify and rectify actually what's really going on
Mm,
because of that. So one of the analogies I started using recently, if we were reading a book that was, say, 8,000 words, like there's 8 billion words. There's 8 billion people on the planet right now. So if we were reading a book that contains 8 billion words, you and I are individual words. So if I'm only one word in this book that contains 8 billion words, how can I define the book? I can't.
yeah.
But my part in the book is necessary. My word, if you take that word out, it's going to mess things up. You take
Right.
one word out of a page, it's like that made no sense, at least in this area, you know?
Wow.
So instead of worrying about the other words, which are the parallel experiences, just focus on your word and see what happens. Play it as best you can, amplify it as best you can. And the more we work on a unit and frequency, all of a sudden, whatever happens is just amplified in a higher level. We could see it. This is pretty amazing. Where somehow we said, when this happened, this is good. If this happened, is bad. And where did we get that from? It's really interesting, right? Yeah, we have emotions to deal with. But when something happens, like a loved one dies, I don't mean you're going to be jumping up and down, but the emotion of sadness comes in. But once it comes in, I deal with it, I learn from it, and then I let it go. So I don't have any what we call post-traumatic stress disorder. That
Mm,
all that is you're holding on. So you'll never forget that person, but when you let go of the emotion that hit you, you then learn. Then the gift from that person's death appears. So
mm,
we're here to learn to let go, live unconditionally. And we start to do that, it becomes easy. We let go of these things that happen to us, but you won't forget. But now when I tell the story, it's completely different than me breaking down crying.
mm. Wow.
So memory will never go away. It well, unless you hit your head really hard. But what they call saksara and memory are two different things. I could have a memory of, say, my brother dying, but I don't hold that in my body anymore when someone mentions him. So I let go of the sakkara that was that energy field in my body, but the memory of my brother will never disappear as long as
Right.
I live and I go on. So
And
that's what we're trying to do. Let go of those um, energy blocks that are taking up our energy source. It literally is suffocating us, our energy. When we release all that stuff, everything starts to look really amazing.
wow. Yeah.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, you're mentioning so interesting the stuff you're talking about because it takes me to the next thing, which is letting go, which is a huge thing for humans, for us, all of us to actually practice and to like become good at it, letting
yeah,
go. And actually, I was having a good conversation with my sister, and she said, "Why are we this way? Why do we keep all these memories, you know? And then now, why are we like we have to learn how to get rid of them or let go of these memories? Why are we built this way, you know?" And she took a course on meditation about letting go. About what they do is they kind of delete the memories, but the emotions of the memories they delete
yeah.
them by there's different imaging. Like for example, throw the image of your memory into the sun, for example, you
Hmm.
know, things like that. That represents for sure getting rid of the feeling, right?
Hmm.
And so there's got to be a practice. We got to practice on of letting go. It's not as easy for us to let
Yeah,
go and to not have, like you said, the memory of the feeling, right? You might have maybe the memory of something, but it doesn't have a feeling attached to it because we carry so much attachment, and that doesn't give us the room to manifest great things, you know. And
yeah,
also, it gives us blocks of energy in our body, right? That
absolutely.
manifests into a disease or into a something bad that you don't want. For example, we
Hmm.
keep a lot of stuff in our stomach and our digestive system
Yeah,
that is memories in there. We think about it and in our belly hurts. You know,
yeah,
so that's so interesting you were talking about that because that's the big thing that all of us have to practice in order to have this easier experience, right?
exactly. So why are we carrying around the memory isn't the problem, it's the emotional tie to it is becomes the problem. So even though they're somewhat married, memory and the physical or the emotion are separate in their own entity. So I can let go of an emotion, but I won't forget about something that happened to me, but I no longer am charged from it. So the practical question, the question I get a lot, how do I do that? Well, when emotions start to come up, when you breathe in, so breathing in takes will, right? To breathe in. Breathing out is easy. Breathing out is the part of us that allows us to let go naturally. So when you follow your breath, you're learning to let go. And when you actually breathe in and breathe out, that thing that bothered me, all of a sudden, what happens when it bothers me, what happens in the body? The body starts getting erratic. Like my heart rate will start to go higher. When that happens, I go into what I call a high beta state. I'm no longer in low beta or even theta. I'm not relaxed. But when I start to breathe in deep and then out slow, my heart rate starts to slow down. My thoughts start to slow down. And all of a sudden, I feel more relaxed. That situation is still standing in front of me. I didn't forget about it, but my body's no longer reacting to it. Right? There are other practices. What I like about the breath is I can do this while I'm driving. There are other practices, other modalities, such as like hypnosis. They actually do work, you know. But when I tell people, I'm like, you can't, like, oh my God, I have a problem. Well, you might not get into the hypnotherapist by, till next Tuesday, where you could stop breathing now. You know,
Yeah.
so all those modalities are amazing. I don't, practice hypnotherapy. I practice other modalities, but the one modality I give everyone is the breath. Right now, I can actually get my vagus nerve under control by just breathing and calm down. You know, why do you think everyone feels good after they work out? Because when they're working out, what they may not realize is they augment their breathing to a higher level. So the lifting of the weights, when you do that, you need more oxygen. So they think, oh, it was the weights. I'm like, no, it was really the breathing. Lifting the weights is going to make your muscle bigger, but the breathing has everything to do with your nervous system. So what we're doing is we're trying to calm a nervous system down. When the
Right.
nervous system's amplified, that's post-traumatic stress. And you say post-traumatic because it's something that didn't happen now. It's happened before. Why are we still holding on to it? We think we can't get rid of it. So what we do is we have to then create a world around it. Like if I had a thorn in my leg for 10 years, eventually I would create an apparatus. So if I hit a wall, the apparatus would protect it. But then that apparatus disallows me from going through the airport because it's metal, you know,
Yeah.
right? But why wouldn't I just pull the damn thorn out? Right?
Yeah.
You pull the thorn out, all of a sudden it's no longer a problem. Now I don't have a problem running through the rose garden because once I get hit with a thorn, I just pull it out. The world is going to come at you. I'm not saying this is going to protect you from getting thorns, but I'm teaching you how to pull the damn thorn out before it does any severe damage.
Right. Right.
So post traumatic, that means it happened before and we're still holding on to it. And then, yeah, the thorn's fine until I hit a wall and go to sleep at night. But damn, there's too many walls and my bed is, I got to sleep. And what am I going to do? Sleep on one side? So by going through the act of breathing and slowing down that heart rate, all of a sudden, wow, I just pulled the thorn out. Yeah. Now you can deal with the situation that's in front of you because
Wow.
life is coming at us.
Right.
So I'm not here to tell people how to bury their head in the sand. Quite the opposite. That's why they train Navy SEALs to breathe in this fashion. They do like what they call box breathing. It keeps their
Right.
heart rate down, but keeps them alert at the same time.
Hmm.
Because they don't. If they panic, a lot of people die. You know,
Right.
so it works. It really
It,
does.
it does work. And you were mentioning something like that also that I was listening to about again breathing because the thing is I was gonna say something and actually I jumped into something else right now, but the like it is easier than we think. And with the breathing, is you're controlling your body. So one thing that Joe Dispenza was talking about is that we let our body controls us all the time,
Mhm.
right? The understanding of the mind and the body, right? And he said, I actually practice a meditation that I work on all the energy centers, and I actually inhale and contract and release on the exhale, all
Yeah,
these centers. And at the and I actually I do feel lighter when I finish my meditation.
yeah,
And I'm trying to control my body. Like he said, you're in control of your body. Let's say you have an itch on your face. The itch on your face is your body telling you this is not normal. I need to be moving. I need to be, right?
yeah, yeah.
And
It's respite. Yeah.
and then you need to say stay right there. Don't move. I'm in control now. Like you're
Hmm.
just gonna be there another 20 minutes or whatever. Just it's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah.
So this breathing thing, as you're saying, is you're controlling your own body so that the body is not taking over anymore. And that's I think the body keeps all the memories, right?
Yeah, body has cravings, body has memories or blocked energy is what they have. But when you kind of clear it out, like with Joe Dispenza, what's great about his work is he is like obviously in the scientific world.
Yeah.
He's yeah, people study it. Like I've been to his retreats where he'll actually take blood and stuff prior to. people coming in and then take it again and see the difference. So there is real studies that this actually works.
Yes.
So yeah, what it is when I can control my nervous system, I am more efficient in energy. So if you look at the major seven energy centers in your body, when they're flowing properly, everything is just a situation. But when they're not, everything becomes a problem.
Yep.
Because yeah, it's like if I'm trying to drive a car with Vaseline on my windshield, that's a problem. Why? Because light isn't allowing to come through properly, so I see blurry. But if I clean the windshield, driving the car is easy. So if I get all these chakras in line, I'm going to feel good. And then, yeah, I'm driving the car and there's traffic or I have to go around something. That doesn't change, but I know how to get around it now. I'm not worried about crashing. So that's the work. I think what happens is in the aspect of some of the new age stuff, a law of attraction, people are trying to get into this place to wish these things away. And I'm like, you can't,
No.
but why is that thing a problem?
Right.
Because what you may seem as a problem, I might not seem as a problem. What I see as a problem, you might not see as a problem. So it just shows you there's no empirical truth to anything outside of us that has any real true meaning other than what we give it. So why wouldn't you give yourself the benefit of doubt and give everything at least a reasonable meaning, neutral meaning, then rather than say, if this happens, this is bad. If this now you're living a 50-50 life. Like, how's the day going? Well, it's not over yet. Attitude where it's like,
Yes,
yeah,
that's funny. Talking about some sayings that I hear sometimes, like that's one saying, it's not over yet. Like
yeah,
that's to me is attracting something that you don't want, right? When you say
right.
it's not over yet, you're expecting something not good to go, like not good to go, to
Yeah.
happen.
What happens is at some level you're not really attracting it. What you're doing is it's like if I had to drive this 50 miles, but I only had 20 miles worth of gas in my car, I ain't making it. So what it is it's not that you're necessarily attracting the situation, but the slightest situation is going to be it's going to be like terrible because of the field of energy I'm in. But when I actually fill my tank every day, I'm going to get to where I have to go. And it's, like that was interesting, type of thing. Not like, oh my God, it was horrible. What was horrible is you didn't have enough gas in your car to get 50 miles because you can only get 20. Now you're stuck on the side of the road and you're saying, see what happened to me? What did I attract here? I'm like, you didn't put enough gas in your car, right? So if we're trying to make it through the day, it says a 24-hour cycle, right? Obviously, 8 of it's sleeping or whatever. So we have the rest of the time is I want to be wide awake through that whole time. And when my head hits the pillow, boom, go down, just unplug. That's the most efficient body I could have. Does it always work? No. But when it doesn't, I know how to mitigate it through breathing. So it's not bad if I have to pull over and get gas. At least I know what to do. So in this scenario, breathing would be pulling over to get gas, not going home. But I do it before I run out of, I don't wait till the car, I have to push it into the station. So all this stuff, I realize the problem is we're so, our insides are so battling each other. We're pulling energy this way and that way that everything seems to be a problem. It's because we're off centered. We're not centered. And staying centered is as simple as tuning your guitar, you know?
And
Yeah.
yeah, and when you said like there's people that things go wrong all the time,
Yeah.
right? It's like a flow of energy that keeps on moving in the
Yeah.
same direction because of what we think, right? What we believe in, what we say to ourselves. And so how do of course, breathing, but if people don't know about breathing, they don't really. I have a lot of friends that I have a friend that is a really good friend, really creative,
Mhm.
but he tells me, he goes, I'm very realistic. He goes, I'm realistic. And I just, I can't understand what you're talking about, that kind of stuff, because I see something and it's just the way it is, and I got to figure out what to do. And it's always worry. It's always kind of, this is not going on. I got to do this. I got to do. I'm like, you have a lot of good things going on in your life
Yeah.
that things are going really well for you. And then he's always repeating all the struggles, you know? And
Yeah.
it's hard for me to talk to him about all this stuff because he calls me a magician. Oh, you know how to do magic. You're the creative guy, you know, and I'm the realistic guy.
Yeah.
And we are good friends, but we kind of do this sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
And like my point is, I guess, is hard to how are these people how can these people learn all this in their own way? Is there a way that you can talk to a very realistic person that way?
Yeah. Because actually, the truth is, we're all realistic. What reality are we expressing? So, um, but breathing, in other words, like talking about breathing to somebody is different than the experience of just having to breathe. It's kind of like if you and I say you never eaten pizza before, and I'm going to start talking about the concept of pizza. I'm like, you're like, what's that? Like, what are you talking about? But if I gave you a slice of pizza and you started eating it, now we can somewhat talk about pizza. So the reason you and I are having this conversation because we had experience with these things. You know, now you might have had pizza with pepperoni, says like meditation. I had regular pizza, just breathing. So all these different modalities just offer up different types of pizza, but we understand what we're talking about. So with your friend, when people do that to me, because everyone's realistic, but my reality is at a different place than it was before I knew this stuff, certainly different than everybody else's, and I certainly don't knock theirs. But if they want out of their reality, they want to change their realistic viewpoint, you have to have this experience. If you're hungry, you must eat food. Experientially, you'll no longer be hungry. But talking about um, intellectually talking about food doesn't fill somebody up. And so I'm all about the experience of people. And damn, there's nothing easier and freer than breathing. It doesn't cost you a dime unless you go to somebody to tell you to do it. But there's videos all over the place. And I tell people, just do me a favor, stop breathing. And I tell them, I give them different ways of breathing. And I'm like, how do you feel? I feel better. Well, there you go. Keep doing it. 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 And then your body's going to get so used to feeling good, you're not going to let traffic bother you anymore. And when
Yeah.
traffic doesn't bother you anymore, you're seldom in traffic. That's kind of very interesting how that works out. Why that works? Well, why does gravity work? Well, we understand, but why do we have gravity? Again, I can't answer that because I'm only one word, and that word represents every experience I had compared to billions, quintillions of experiences out there. So I can't tell you why. I just know it works based on the cycles and what we call fractals. So God gave us fractals to understand, okay, this pattern works, this one doesn't. When I stop breathing, it works every time. How far I get myself, again, if I emptied my tank, it will take me longer to fill than if I filled it halfway, right? Who cares? So, but if I get to the point where I only have to do a 5 minute breath work every day, it means I'm not running myself dry. There are days where I don't even need to do breath work. I'm already there. Well, like I'm not going to eat more food because if I'm not hungry, same thing with meditation, you know? So we start to look at it that way. It literally is a practical, realistic way of looking at it, but it's the experience that your friend needs to have, not the intellect. Now, when he has the experience, I'm like, oh my God, now I know what you're talking about. Because if he was in the basement of a building and there's no walls in this building, all he sees is the confine of the inside of the building. And you're on the 20th story looking out at the city or the ocean, and you're explaining what you see. He's like, you're out of your mind. No, you're in the basement. You can't see what I'm seeing, and I'm aware of that. So I'll tell you what, I'll invite you up to my penthouse. And when he gets there, oh, I can see what you're seeing. The difference is you made it to the place where you can see all that, where um, some people aren't willing to get to the elevator, so to speak,
Right.
to do that, and that's it. So it's about the experience, and then when I have an experience, like a poet, I'm going to try to explain it intellectually, but it doesn't quite do it justice. But damn, I'm not going to give up.
Right.
That's why I do the podcast.
The experience. So, did you ever? I know we talked about in the part one interview with you about your just experience when you went through the passing of the transition of your brother. But have you ever had like an experience where you like you just kind of know like that changed your whole way of thinking? Like one or two experiences you like, this is the real thing. This is how like I went through that already many times that I think I'm like, this feels so right.
Yeah,
I can't, nobody's convincing me of anything. You know what I mean? Like I don't have to go and study that. Like, oh no, it just feels perfect. Feels that's the way it should be.
yeah, because yeah, once you know something, you can't unknow it. You can try to fake it and go back, and that's a lot of people that get into spiritual journey. This happened to me, where I know something appeared up, whether it was a great meditation I had, and I saw something different, and then I start falling into my old patterns. Those old patterns were more painful prior to that experience, because when you're used to being a certain amount of pain, you get used to it. But once I started having these out of body experiences, as you call them, or mystical experiences, there was something there. And the question is, why can't I remain here all the time? And the truth is, you can access it anytime you want. So when I meditate, I get into the state. I'm like, okay, how do I tap into that state without the hour meditation? Ah, that's the goal. That's, oh, I shouldn't say goal, but that's a gift. All I have to do is remember, like if you've been to Hawaii and you're sitting on the beach, and you spent a week there, when you come back, a week later, just think of the beach and you're there. So when I look at all this breathing and breath work, and even people ask me about psychedelics and stuff, I have nothing against them. They are to show you an experience that you may have never otherwise had, but then you must drop that, because if that's the only way you can get there, we're in trouble. So a lot of like the Native Americans did it with peyote, and around 13 years old, 16 years old, where they have these ceremonies, and what they'll do is they'll find out their journey in life. Now the goal is to get there without necessarily taking the peyote again. So the peyote, when you take something like peyote or any psychedelic, it's like one of those movies where you're going to go see the boss of some cartel, where like you can't know how you're driving in, so they put a black hood over your head and they drive you in, and you take your hood off, and now you stand in front of the guy. It's like, that's safety reasons. So taking like a psychedelic is kind of like that way, and then the hood goes over, and then you dropped off at home, and it's like, how'd you get there? Like, oh, I
I
know.
didn't get here. Yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
That's
So
funny.
now it's like, okay, hold on, hold on. Did you hear certain things in the road? Now you can start piecing together, and you can get back to that place without the drug. That's kind of why the medicine, or I call it medicine, that's why the medicine's there to assist us. But there's been people on this planet, like Maharashi, who was said to take LSD and nothing happened. Why? Because he was already there, and he never had to take it. Now he went into what they call samadhi, where like I think 16 years old, he thought he was going to die, and he literally laid down on the floor expecting to die, and he didn't. But he came out completely new person. Now there doesn't seem to be have a practice out there that allows that to happen, because he wasn't trying to do that. So there are individuals on this planet that happens to, and that's great. But we can do that one step at a time. Where they missed a whole, it's like they jumped right to page 100 in the book. Where we still, like, you could still read and get to 100. You could still go that route. One isn't better than the other. But that's what we're looking for. But why are we looking for it? It's because who we are is that very essence. Otherwise, we wouldn't be looking for it. And then when you get to the understanding non-duality, you don't need to look for it. You are that. You just need to let go of all the filters that are keeping you from it, such as your nervous system. Breathe in, relax. I'm like, oh my God. Oh, the situation's still here, but I no longer worry. Fear doesn't overcome me anymore. That's it.
And
And when you start to understand that, it's like, wow, I don't need the situation to change. I just need to elevate my frequency to where the situation goes from like a problem to a challenge to excitement, and then on and so forth. We have the ability, like Joe Dispenza's meditations, show you how to lift to that higher level. And then when you get there, you don't necessarily need to keep doing that, because you're there, you
yeah,
know? you don't have to throw it away either. Everything's with you. So that's the beauty of it.
And I think it's great where, in the beginning when I first started, I had to meditate so much all the time because I will always go back to the same person. I'll be worried, I'll be this, I'll be that, I'll
Yeah.
be anxious, and I'm like, there's a point where I love meditating because it's just like drinking water to me. Like I need my
Yeah.
water, I need my meditation, it just feels good. But we get, it'd be so nice to get to a point, and it's nice to get to a point where you just are. You don't need to meditate, you just are.
Yeah. And that's what we call the walking meditation. Like your meditation is your life, everything coming at you. So now it's like you're walking around with a bottle of water in your hand and you're just taking sips. Where before we were drinking when we were dehydrated. I'm like, no, we don't want to get dehydrated anymore.
Right.
So in the beginning, like, okay, I need some fluids. You got to focus on drinking a lot, such a meditation. But then you do get to a point where you're actually in your life is a meditative. Because the word meditation in Sanskrit means becoming familiar with. I want to become familiar with the super energy I have, like
Mm.
we had when we were children. We didn't need to meditate when we were children.
No.
We were already there, right?
No.
So what happened? Well, we started piling on all these. Like we grabbed a backpack and started throwing a bunch of stuff in the backpack. Like, man, life's getting tough. And then someone says to you, like, what's in the backpack? Oh, those are all my memories. So I'm like, memories can be stored up in a cloud, but why are you carrying this backpack? And then one day you take it off, like, damn, I can run again.
It's a
And
big
so
backpack.
yeah, so like a meditation, like what you mentioned, like a Joe Dispenza, where he does the pineal. I think you were talking about the pineal gland meditation, the squeezing, where you
Yeah.
breathe in, you squeeze, you move the spinal fluid up your column and
Yeah.
directly into your what you call your sixth chakra or your third
Crown.
eye.
Yeah. Oh, the
Yeah,
third eye.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, into the crown as well.
Yeah.
But it clears everything up from your root chakra all the way up to your crown chakra, starts to clear. And all of a sudden now we could get into what we call creative expression. Once fear, once I'm out of that state of fear, now I'm expressing and creating brilliantly. And what happens is what I thought was once a problem is now a paintbrush for me to paint what I want. Now it's like, wow. Before it was like, keep that away. It's making my canvas dirty. And like, no, it's called paint.
Um,
you
yeah.
know?
I love
So
your analogies. I love because they're so again, they're so real. It's good for people that are realistic to listen to you and make sense of this stuff more than in a very uh
yeah, it's
not
practical.
yeah,
Yeah,
mystical place.
yeah,
Talking about fear and like again, now we're talking here, and if fear is to me, fear is nothing. Like it's something that we create as humans out of sometimes I don't even understand how fear happens
yeah,
because well, my career had everything that I've done without a parachute, without a safety net.
yeah,
People, and I'm like, I'm excited about this and I'm gonna do it. And people be like, "Whoa, but you gotta make sure that you gotta no, no, yeah, yeah, I understand what you're saying." And then I'll think about it, and all of a sudden I'm just doing it, you
yeah,
know, and it's gone really well with my dancing and everything else I've done. Amazing things have happened in my career that I'm like, wow, I can't believe this happened. I was thinking about it, and all of a
yeah,
sudden I'm doing it. Same thing with this podcast. I'm thinking I was a little bit kind of like, okay, I want to do this. I'm not sure how. All of a sudden I'm doing it. All of a sudden I'm talking to you, which is
yeah,
to me is
yeah,
just such an amazing thing. And I might talk to Mike, your podcast.
yeah, yeah. You will. He's looking forward to coming on. Yeah,
And so that's like even wow, that's awesome. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So if I didn't get over that, get over whatever else is going on in my head, I would not be talking to you right now. Same thing as you doing everything you're doing with your podcast, right?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Because
Your books.
yeah, like what is fear? Fear, like the way I explain fear, and again, this is just an explanation or a way I look at it, is like the only energy source we have, let's state, is love, right? Now look at love and say temperature as the same, right? Like, so love and temperature equal in how I'm going to define it, just for an analogy standpoint. So the human body does really well in like 72 to about 80 degrees, right? Because we're at about 100 degrees in temperature. But but then the temperature could go down to zero. Now zero would be what we call fear. So it's non-sustainable. You can't live there too long. It could bounce you back. But there's something exhilarating about going into degree weather for a short period of time. So love is all temperatures, but 80 degrees and 0 degrees aren't opposite each other. They're just different degrees of temperature. So fear is a lower degree of energy that the human existence can exist in. Just like I need a certain amount of light to read a book. But in truth, there is no such thing as absolute darkness. There's really no such thing as fear. There's just a lower frequency of love that doesn't emanate through our body for us to want to go do stuff. So you start to understand that what's happening is I am not allowing the energy to flow through my body like there's a clog in my pipe, so to speak, and the water's dripping out. Well, if I have water dripping out, there's very little I can do with it. I can't wash my car with it. God, it'll take me 2 hours to fill up a glass of water. So you know something's wrong. It's because the pipes are clogged. Once you do that, all of a sudden the water's flowing, everything's fine. You look at your body as an instrument. So if you take care of this instrument and let the energy flow, nothing's a problem. All of a sudden, walking a tightrope across, if that's your thing, across the Grand Canyon isn't problematic because you're focused. You know what to do. And like dancing for you, like why would you think about everything that could go wrong? There's so many things to think about that can go wrong.
Oh yeah.
No, you could live 10 lifetimes and you wouldn't finish it. So why would you think about that? Right? But in these lower energies, that's all you can think about. What can go wrong? What can go wrong? What can go wrong? I'm like, my God, that's a tough way to live.
Wow.
But as people start meditating and breathing, all of a sudden their energy starts to lift. They like, oh my God, I'm in the same job. I'm in the same relationship. I'm in this, but it's beautiful now. Nothing really changed in the outside world other than when I go higher up, my viewpoint of the outside world changed, and that changes everything.
That's
So
powerful.
we're floating up, and then I see everything. When I'm in the basement, I can only see the contents of the basement. When I go up to the first floor, I could see more of it. When I step outside the building, I could see the whole entire building. My God, that's where we're going at. And then I get into other concepts of people like, okay, you aren't the building. You are the witnesser experiencing the building. And that's when people get to these other levels, going through this stuff, all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, okay, what does that mean? Just like a great actor, like imagine Tom Hanks took a little while for him to become Forrest Gump, right? Just say 3 months before they can fully shoot scenes because he had to take it on. So for 3 months, he had to meditate really a lot. And then after he didn't have to. He's Forrest Gump now. And then he shot the movie. I don't know how long it took, but he was Forrest Gump. But then at some point, when he became into another movie, he had to let go of Forrest Gump. So these fractals show us that this is what we're doing. So we want to let go of that character, the one that got hurt back then, the one that was made fun of. You don't. Tom Hanks is not going to forget the role of Forrest Gump, but he's no longer Forrest Gump. He's now another role, another
Right.
role, another role. But Tom Hanks himself never changed, so to speak. That would be the soul body having these experiences. When you start to see that's how life works, it's all around us. You start to see that pattern. Wow, what do I have to do? Change by breathing. Go in. Yeah, it takes a little effort at times in the beginning, but after a while, it's like, playing an instrument or dancing. Like, when did you start dancing? How
When did
old?
I start?
Yeah.
Well, I started actually later in my life. I mean, I've been dancing since I was a little kid, but professionally, like training when I was in college.
Okay, when you started like saying, I'm going to do this professionally, the level. of focus you had to put in was probably pretty strong at that time, right?
Very strong. Because
Yeah,
I was a messy, I had so much energy, but I couldn't contain it into the moves.
yeah,
I mean, like I was all over the place. So I
yeah,
had to really train. So I would like the move will be very precise.
yep.
You know what I mean?
And a
So I,
precise move, yeah, precise move means you're utilizing or needing less energy to make that move. Where before you're probably wasting a lot of energy.
oh, before I had
Yeah,
crazy energy.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
but then you weren't contained and you're wasting it. So the act of going from that point to where you were like a novice, if you will, to a professional, that transition is going to seem to be arduous and painful, but it's so worth it. Now you don't even think about it. You get into the flow of it. That's what we're talking about here. So anyone's like, "Oh man, I tried meditating. It's difficult." I'm like, I'm like, well, you tried dancing. It was difficult, but then it wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, so the discomfort is the altitude change in life. So I'm like, get used to the discomfort. But when you get past the discomfort, that discomfort now, as time goes on, is exhilaration, not discomfort. So now when I get into an airplane, like it's the first time you go in it, it's kind of uncomfortable taking off. You think you're going to crash, but all of a sudden now you've been doing it. Like now it's exhilarating. Plane's still taking off at the same speed, same airplane, but it went from scary to exhilarating. Why? Because I've done it many times. Just keep breathing, keep meditating, and one day, boom.
And keep on. I think when you mentioned something important is about the love, the high vibration
Yep,
and in the love, because once you have that love for yourself, for ourselves, then things just kind of get easier from there, right?
yeah, yeah,
Once you have the understanding of loving ourselves first and
yeah.
foremost, I think everything else kind of gets back into the flow from there. And it just kind of, it's not as tough.
No, because what is love? Love is a concept, but what love is, it's that feeling that doesn't the energy flowing through you has no resistance. That's really what love is. And there is infinite degrees of love. That's the brilliance of it. When you go to the lower ones, we call that fear, but that's still a lower degree of love. It's how I look at it. But we're talking about these higher levels where now you're out of what we call the fight and flight. You're out of survival mode. Your body knows how to survive. So we don't like it's like you have a bodyguard now. You don't have to carry a gun, right? That's kind of look at it. Before you walk around with a bunch of guns, like, no, I hired a bodyguard. Now I have to worry about that. Let them worry about that. My body can worry about if a car is going to hit me to get the hell out of the way. I don't have to think about that all day. Like my body tells me when I'm hungry. So my
Right.
body's well suited. I don't need to work on that anymore. What I want to do is amplify the energy to where my pineal gland and ideas come in. And what I'm doing is I'm tapping into this field of energy. So, am I creating it or am I getting into the field where it was already created? Like with dance, like you just stepped into this field of dance, kind of like watching birds fly. And all of a sudden, the pattern, when they studied birds, they're like, who's leading that? Well, it's not any particular bird. It was the field that the birds entered into that created the patterns. So we're stepping into these fields where life is magnificent. The dream is stepping into a field unknown to you.
Mm.
That is the dream.
No. The unknown.
Yeah, and then you take whatever gift you have, such as dance, and you dance like you've never danced before in that field. Or now, like you stepped into that field, and now you're doing a podcast. You don't even need to think. Why would you be scared?
Right. It's
Yeah, and
wow.
that's so. But it starts out just by breathing, meditating, moving around, getting energy out. There's different modalities to do it, but once we get into that cycle of doing that, like my God, it's endless.
It
It's
is endless.
endless what we can do. It's amazing. It's exciting.
Yeah, the excitement, that's amazing. That's just I love that.
Yeah.
There's times where I do feel actually yesterday I was feeling really excited. And I'm like, why am I feeling it was just kind of like
Yeah.
excited about something. And some people might say, oh, so what's going on? What are you doing exactly that is so cool? It's so like And you can sometimes just you just can say, I don't know, I just feel excited.
Yeah, sometimes we're blessed with we stepped into a field, the energy comes our way. We also notice when the energy goes away, but we can mitigate that back to it. And sometimes, like we don't know why this happens. Like why does energy flow excite me? I don't know. Just like I don't know why there is actually gravity. I know how to work with gravity, right? But I don't care. I want to play with the energy flowing through my body, and I want to express it.
Nice. Yeah.
and and the how I express it will be different every day. There seems to be a direct theme, probably like you as a direct theme, and you use the energy express dance, and also now with the podcast, you're just redirecting it, but it's the same energy.
It is.
Yeah. So if I plug in a toaster or an amplifier into electricity, yeah, I'm gonna make toast, and after the toast, I'm gonna play guitar while I eat my toast. but 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 the energy didn't change. You know what I'm saying? I'm tapping into that, but just utilizing it differently.
Yeah, it's
So yeah,
so
yeah,
interesting because we're gonna end soon, but just
okay,
before that, you were saying that like I started doing the podcast because of the unknown part where I wanted to express myself, and it all came through the dance. In the dance, I expressed myself,
mhm,
and the dance taught me how to be into the flow.
yeah,
Because everything that I learned in dance and everything that I learned in the business of dance and entertainment and everything, it was just like once I was in the flow, once I was breathing, once I was true to myself, things will work out perfectly. And once I was working hard and anxious and things would just be harder. And
yeah,
then I'm like, yeah, this now I can actually express it better. I can express things better. Like when I was dancing, I was all over the place when I first started. Then
yeah,
I became focused and more precise. Same thing with this. I wasn't ready at the time, and I'm like, yeah, I can actually now express myself with better with more clarity,
yeah,
and say, so here we are again.
yeah. And that's why I always encourage people: just keep doing it. One day you won't notice you're doing it.
Yeah.
Like if anyone, I don't care who they are, if they learn to play the piano and played it every day for 20 minutes for a year, this is a really interesting statistic, by the way. You take anything, I'm just using piano in this case. If you took one thing, say playing the piano, and practice 20 minutes a day for 1 year, you'll be better than 85% of the people at that thing. Now, people are like, oh, that's great. I'm like, no, it's disconcerting. Like, why? I'm like, why is 85% of people not doing what they want to do?
Mm, yeah.
So it takes little work to become great. I'm like, it's because no one's doing the work.
Wow. That's
So you and I, hopefully, this conversation triggers somebody to actually go breathe and get out there and dance or whatever it is they came here to do. Because I don't know what they came here to do, but I know this: everyone breathes. I haven't met a person that hasn't breathed.
some people breathe like they breathe like
Yeah, yeah. I always say there's no wrong way to breathe, but there's more efficient ways of breathing.
yeah.
Because technically, if there was a wrong way, like if you're not breathing, you're dead. So people are still walking around like, and they're not breathing efficiently to get their system better, but they're still alive. So it's not wrong. I'm just learning new efficient ways, and it's never going to end, by the way. Because when I went to a breath coach and was learning, I'm now creating nuances in breathing for me to enter into different fields, whatever. And
Mm,
I teach people like, okay, here's the basics. Then make it your own. Just like someone taught you how to dance, but you then had to let go of a particular person that you emulated or wanted, and you had to become your own.
yeah.
You can't hold on to an image of somebody else dancing when you're dancing. You have to let it go and become who you are.
Wow.
And that's what we're doing. Yeah.
Wow. So that's a great way to end this amazing conversation again. Part two with Frank Daly. Yay!
Thanks.
Love it. I
Yeah.
love it. Again, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart that you took time to talk to me and have a great conversation. And I'm excited to keep on collaborating with you. We
Yeah.
never know. And so tell people your show is on what days or
Yeah, well, we put it out. We try to get it out weekly. It's called Perspective Shift on YouTube. It's called Perspective Shift now, but on Spotify and Apple, it's Perspective Shift. I also do a coaching. It's Frank Daly Coaching, and I teach these modalities and stuff like that. If anyone's interested, in the first session's free. Just I want to see where they're at, type of thing. Because to me, it's kind of like I'm sharing. I'm not needing to make money off this. I just want to share it and pay it forward. So, because the more people wake up to this, the more they um, amplify themselves, there will never be poverty on the planet. Yeah, because we live on an abundant planet, but it's just again, if I have a blindfold, I can't see anything. I'm not blind. It's just I have a blindfold on. But if you have a blindfold on long enough, you'll convince yourself you're blind. So it's about lifting the blindfolds off, opening up the eyes. And at first, when you do that, the light can be very like bright and stuff. That's okay. We're all going through that, you know. And that's kind of so yeah. It's Frank Daly Coaching, and yeah, that's it. So I just want to
okay.
like people helped me. I want to help them. Pass it forward.
That's so nice of you.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and you have couple of books that were mentioned before, and
yep.
it's all online. They can find you on Amazon. Am I correct? The books can be,
Yeah. They're both on Amazon. One is just digital right now, and yeah, it's called The Power of Perspective. And my first book is called Enjoy the Ride. That you can get in any form. So and they're all on Amazon.
yeah. So
So
I'm gonna get for sure one of those,
yeah,
one of your first book first, and then.
yeah,
Anyways, again, thanks so much,
yeah,
and everybody stay into the flow, right? You gotta stay into the flow of your own power, because everything goes smooth from there, like a
yeah.
like a nice dance. Anyways, thanks so much for being here into the flow, and thank you, Frank, again so much. We'll
Thank you,
catch you.
Salvo, for doing what you do. Thank
Yes,
you.
thanks so much. You too.
Appreciate it.
Stay cool.
Yeah, you as well, man.
All
All
right.
right.
Take care.
All right. Be well.